everybody, and welcome to my Newts wrap-up. I cheated. I did. I'm a Slytherin, what can I say? Alright, so I just gotta say, yes, I did cheat a bit for my Newts. The rules were that you had to read between August 1st and August 31st. I did start a bit early because of the booktubeathon, and I read about 4 books. I read 2 of those books during July, and then August started, so it's okay. Anyways, the second thing I did, I cheated a little bit with one of the books. I switched the editions part of the way through because I wanted my own copy, and I'll get to that more when I show you. And then also, I did not read them in the order that I was supposed to. So, for example, you're supposed to read the acceptable level first, and then move on to the exceeds expectations, and then move on to the outstanding. I did not do that, so my grading is going to be a little bit funky just for one subject, but the rest of them I did okay. So to start off, my main focus was Care of Magical Creatures because I wanted to be basically what Newt Scamander is, which is basically a wizarding naturalist, and I wanted to study the plants and animals of the wizarding world. And so I focused mainly on Care of Magical Creatures and herbology, and I passed those with both. I passed both of those with an outstanding. So let me show you what I read. So for Care of Magical Creatures, I read The Black Stallion, which was read a book with an animal on the cover. Did not like this book. Gave it 2 out of 5 stars. You can see my rant review on it later, or in my booktubeathon wrap-up. Next, read a book under 160 pages. This one again was a little cheaty. It was 165 pages, but it's alright, it's close enough. That was Warhorse, and I really liked this one a lot more than The Black Stallion. I gave this one, I think, 4 out of 5 stars. Next up, I read, the outstanding was read a book that includes dragons in any way, and I read Wings of Fire, The Dark Secret. Really enjoyed this one. I love the Wings of Fire series, so I think I gave this one 4 out of 5 stars. That was my Care of Magical Creatures, so I passed that with an outstanding, which was pretty awesome. Next up, my herbology. This is the one that I kind of cheated a little bit with. So read a book with the acceptable levels, read a book with green on the cover. And I picked a Wizard of Earthsea. If you'll notice, this edition does not have green on the cover, but the edition that I had for book club did have green on the cover. It did have green in the ocean and all that good stuff. But I decided that I wanted my own copy, so a few pages in, I went to Barnes & Noble and picked myself up a copy. Again, this is the newer reprinted edition, so they didn't have the old edition that had green on the cover. But I'm still counting it because the edition that I was talking about did have green on the cover. Anyways, that's the acceptable level. Hi everybody, editing Katie here, along with my dog. So I realized I never told you what I thought about A Wizard of Earthsea by Ursula K. Le Guin. So initially, I wasn't too fond of it. It was kind of hard to get through. Like, the beginning really captured me, which is why I wanted my own copy. But then it was harder to get through. I felt like it was kind of boring and just kind of trudged through. I did find some symbolism that was pretty significant for me when I read it. But then the rest of the story itself was sort of very slow and kind of hard to get through. But I went to book group and realized that they had the same experience. It was very kind of slow to get through and kind of hard. But the more that we talked about it, the more we liked it and really enjoyed it. And we found some more sort of symbolism or things that you could take from it that actually made the book a lot better afterwards, like when we discussed it. And so now I'm way more interested in going in and reading it again, or reading more in that series to see what else she did. And the interview that was at the back of the book was really interesting, coming from somebody who loves Harry Potter. Ursula K. Le Guin wasn't a huge fan of J.K. Rowling and didn't understand why Harry Potter was such a big deal. And I can kind of see that in her writing. Like, the way that she writes is very different from J.K. Rowling, and I actually want to do a discussion video about this sometime, about the difference in different kind of storytellers. So anyways, I would give A Wizard of Earthsea 4 out of 5 stars. It was really interestingly written. It was slower, but it was beautifully written. So I would give it, a good 4 out of 5 stars because I enjoyed it, and it's something that I'd like to come back to, but it wasn't my favorite. So 4 out of 5 stars. And anyways, back to the video. You're probably going to see me a couple more times because I realized I was tired when I filmed this, and so I might interrupt a couple more times. Then read a book with illustrations. It exceeds expectations, and I read The Tale of Despereaux, 5 out of 5 stars. One of my favorite books I've read ever, like, or this year I should say, but one of my new favorite books of all time. So Tale of Despereaux. And then for the outstanding in herbology, I read A Light in the Attic by Shel Silverstein. Classic, gotta love it. It's classic children's poetry. So that was my outstanding for herbology. Next up was Defense Against the Dark Arts. My goal was to aim for an exceeds expectations. So I read, let's see, it was read a last book in a series. This one, again, kind of cheated a little bit. Wings of Fire, The Brightest Night. This is the last book in a story arc. So the series continues on, but this was the last book that follows our 5 main dragons. And so I counted this one. This was the acceptable level. Then next up, read a foiled book. That is the exceeds expectations. And read a foiled book. I was going to read Peter and the Starcatchers, but when I got back from my trip, I was just too tired to read like a bigger book, even though it's a middle grade. So I'm going to put that away. So I decided to read My Name is Mina. This one I had actually started reading a little bit earlier on in the month, and so again I kind of cheated a little bit more with this one. I was maybe like 20 or 30 pages in, and then I decided to finish it as my foiled book. So that was my Exceeds Expectations in Defense Against the Dark Arts. So I passed that one. So editing Katie here again, I realized again, I never told you about what My Name is Mina is actually about. So My Name is Mina was written by David Almond, and oh, it's so shiny. Gosh. Okay. So My Name is Mina is about this little girl who's rather eccentric. She gets pulled out of school to be homeschooled because of how eccentric and sort of imaginative she is. And this is her journal. And so it's got a lot of, so it's really, really thick writing or whatever, but then she has sort of these moments of storytelling and writing and stuff that, you know, these little to-do list things. This book actually inspires me to write. And that's what I love about this book. And so I'm going to give it another 4 out of 5 stars. The story itself is sort of more slice of life, but the way that she looks at things and the way that she views her world and the way that she just, I love it. I'm going to put it down because it's so shiny. But it was beautifully written. It was written in sort of very poetic, and I think it's what's called prose. I can't identify prose on my own, but if a book says it's written in prose, I believe it. But anyways, it was so beautifully written. And this girl, basically her father has passed away and she's just living with her mother, and she just keeps this journal, and it's about her story, and it actually is leading up to, it's actually the prequel to a book called Skellig. And so Skellig was written first, and then he wrote My Name is Mina. And this is written more as, you know, an actual story, and it's sort of a magical realism story. But then this book, My Name is Mina, is her journal. So it's before she meets the boy in the very beginning of the book called Skellig. So anyways, 4 out of 5 stars because of how much it inspired me. It really inspired me to write and to do more with that. And also, I mean, I marked, you know, I dog-eared the daylights out of this book. So anyways, really enjoyed this one. Next up is the one that I failed, I'm pretty sure, because no matter how you put it, me and my husband, we did finish the Screw Tape Letters. This was supposed to be the Exceeds Expectations level. So this is supposed to be the second level, which is read a book with a male lead character. And, well, so this was the Exceeds Expectations, but I didn't finish my acceptable level, which was Scarlet by Marissa Meyer. I'm currently reading it, but there was no way I was going to finish it before NEWTS, and this was supposed to be read a name that has a name of a color in the title. Part of the reason why I didn't finish this one was because I tried to read this one, a book with a name or name of a color in the title. I tried to read The Blackwater Lightship, and I had to DNF it. I didn't necessarily stop reading it. I got halfway through it and was so bored that I had to just skim the rest, and I just skipped to the ending. It was really boring, guys. I mean, he's a good writer because but it was so mundane. It was so boring. He would just write, and then they did this, and then they did that. And then he would have these little moments of really amazing writing, of like a really poignant story point or a really deep thought. And he would, he'd write that, but then it was just boring the rest of the time. And I didn't get the humor. Maybe it's an Irish thing also, because there was some phrasing and stuff in here that I didn't fully comprehend or understand. And I just didn't like it. I just did not like it. So I got halfway through it, and I just had to say, you know what? I'm not going to put myself in a slump over this. So I stopped it. And then I picked Scarlet up because I picked this one because I wanted to read a really quick book and hopefully get through my NEWTS, but just didn't happen. So I started this one, and there was no way I was going to finish it within like 24 hours. So anyways, but that's okay. I failed potions, but Snape will forgive me, right? Yeah, totally, because I'm in Slytherin. That's why. He'll pass me just because I'm in Slytherin house. So that was my experience with the NEWTS. I really enjoyed this one because I gave myself permission to DNF books, but that's also what makes the challenge hard, is because it's like, well, I failed the challenge not because I didn't put in the effort, but because the books weren't that good, and I just didn't want to finish this book or this novel and whatnot. So that was my experience. I passed the NEWTS, I guess, overall, because you had to pass 2 subjects. And so I passed 3 subjects. I failed 1. That's okay. NEWTS Commander didn't finish school, so I can still be a wizarding naturalist. I still really just enjoyed this whole process. So, and the books that I read for the Booktubeathon and for the NEWTS challenge were all really, really good, except for just a few duds. So, and I learned a lot about myself, again, through the Booktubeathon and through the NEWTS challenge, because I learned so much during the Booktubeathon challenge. I feel like I was able to better enjoy my experience with the NEWTS. So, anyways, as always, thank you guys for watching. We'll see you next time.